Welcome to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin podcast, your weekly news roundup of hunting, fishing, trapping, and conservation stories from around the Gem State. Hosted by Fish and Game's Public Information Specialist, Connor J. Lease.
And welcome back, everyone, to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin podcast. It's been a fairly mild week for hunting, fishing, trapping, and conservation stories here in Idaho. This week on the Hook and Bulletin, we'll be talking about new Idaho wildlife license plates, why everybody loves a sucker, and a couple of opportunities to serve on an Idaho Fish and Game working group. But first, with fires currently scorching many parts of the state, this first story is for those of you who may have some questions about wildfires encroaching on their hunting spots. If you're a hunter heading into the backcountry this season, here's a timely reminder to check with Forest Service Ranger District offices or county sheriff's offices for fire closures in your hunt area. All general fire information can be found online. Hunters can also find the location of fires in relation to hunting units on Idaho Fish and Game's Hunt Planner map page. The Hunt Planner interactive map is a nifty little tool if you've never checked it out, and it's probably time I write up a story focused solely on this easy-to-use online resource. But for the sake of this episode, we're going to stay focused on its fire layers. To take a look at fire information on the Hunt Planner map, click on Turn Layers On/Off, then from the drop-down menu, select Wildfires and Closure-Related Layers. Finally, check the box for USA Wildfire Incidence Acres. Now, Idaho Fish and Game generally doesn't close hunts or change seasons in response to temporary fire closures. It's very rare. Most fires don't affect an entire hunt unit, elk zone, or controlled hunt unit for the duration of the hunt. Hunters will have the option of hunting a different portion of the hunt area that is not affected by fires, or you can simply just hunt later in the season when the fire is put out and the restrictions are lifted. If you're an Idaho resident, you can exchange tags to hunt in a different area if tags are available, such as uncapped elk zones or capped elk zones that are not yet sold out. Resident hunters with controlled hunt tags may also exchange them for general season tags before the controlled hunt begins. But just a heads up, controlled hunt fees are not refunded. Resident hunters may also exchange controlled deer hunts for general deer hunt tags. Typically, a tag must be exchanged prior to the tag's season opener, although regional fish and game offices will occasionally extend deadlines for exchanging a tag when there are extenuating circumstances for a specific hunt. Fish and Game may consider requests for rain checks or refunds on a case-by-case basis, but typically only in rare cases where all access to a controlled hunt area or an elk zone is blocked by fire or fire closures for the duration of that hunt. So, long story short here, folks, this has definitely been a smoky start to summer and now fall, I guess. And despite the frustrations of having your cherished hunting spot smoked out or closed off while fire crews put out that fire, the best thing you can do as a hunter is to be prepared and put together a few backup plans just in case. For more on this story, check out Roger Phillips' story on our website and head on over to incaweb.wildfire.gov. That's INCIWEB.wildfire.gov to see all current fire activity. Next up, fisheries biologist Brett Bowersox is sticking up for all the suckers out there in his latest fishing blog. Back in episode 17, you might recall we hit on some interesting info about Idaho's native sculpin, a little fish that's been calling Idaho's waters home for a long, long time. Well, the author of that story, Idaho Fish and Game's fisheries biologist Brett Bowersox, has a brand new installment of Live in Idaho Waters for all you suckers out there. Suckers, a native non-game fish, are often misunderstood and, sadly, sometimes even disliked. But slowly but surely, they are starting to win the hearts of anglers and the public. Here in Idaho, we got 6 native species: the bridgelip, large-scale, mountain, longnose, green, and Utah sucker. And no, that last one's not a cheeky jab at the Beehive State. Native suckers are found in all of our major watersheds. If you're fishing a decent-sized stream, river, and even several lakes, there's a pretty good chance you're fishing sucker water. Yeah! But different species can be found in different parts of the state. For instance, there's a difference in sucker species whether you're fishing above or below Shoshone Falls on the Snake River. Like many of our native species, suckers are springtime spawners. Some species make spawning runs similar to our native trout and more impressive distances from larger mainstem rivers into spawning tributaries in the spring and early summer as water temps rise. We also have some species which spawn in shallower parts of lakes. Female suckers can deposit a lot of eggs when they spawn, often in the tens of thousands. In many instances, male suckers get bright red or orange during spawning and are really quite pretty, like a big old garnet. Juvenile and adult suckers often feed on algae and other stuff found along the water bottom. Their mouths are on the bottom of their faces instead of straight ahead like a trout. Most sucker species also eat aquatic bugs like mayflies and caddisflies, small aquatic organisms called zooplankton, and terrestrial bugs like beetles and ants. A few species have even had fish eggs found in their stomachs, but it doesn't appear to be on the menu all that often. Just like with sculpin, the question of why do we care about these little weird Roomba sharks sometimes gets brought up. Suckers serve an important role in our aquatic ecosystems. They're a valuable food source for larger predatory fish, birds, and mammals. And all those eggs they produce when they spawn are another potential food source for other parts of the ecosystem. Given their diet, suckers are not encountered by anglers on a regular basis, unless you're hellbent on catching one. That being said, you can definitely catch them in some places by using certain techniques. A night crawler fished along the stream or lake bottom can get you a sucker, but they can also be caught on lures and flies, especially species with more diverse diets like the large-scale sucker. If you do happen upon one next time you're out, know that you're handling an Idaho native species. And do us and the sucker all a favor. Please don't throw it up on the bank. Instead, consider keeping one and giving it a try. Yes, they do have a reputation of being a little bony, but they also can be quite tasty if done right. You can find recipes for cooking, smoking, and canning online. Or if you'd rather keep suckerfish off the menu, then above all else, enjoy a unique catch and release angling opportunity and toss the fella back so he can keep serving its role in the ecosystem. Head on over to our website and keep your ear to the ground as Brett and other fisheries staff roll out more of these fun, interesting blogs in the coming months. Next up, some exciting news for you salmon anglers. Or anglers from salmon, I guess. Idaho Fish and Game is pleased to announce the opening of Johnson Pond, a new fishing opportunity for anglers in Lemhi County. Johnson Pond, a former gravel pit pond named in honor of Val B. Johnson, is located 8 miles south of Salmon on the west side of Highway 93 South. At roughly 6.5 acres, Johnson Pond is the largest community fishing pond in the Salmon region, and it's recently been stocked with over 1,000 rainbow trout from Fish and Game's Mackey Fish Hatchery. Thanks to an agreement with the Johnson family, the property's owners, anglers now have a fun new spot to wet a line. Val Johnson was an Air Force veteran, a past outfitter, and a highly esteemed teacher at Salmon High School for more than 25 years. Fish and Game Regional Fisheries Manager Greg Scobie said, quote, "It's been a pleasure working with the Johnson family to see Val's vision of opening this pond to provide fishing opportunities for the public. It shows the commitment that Val and the Johnson family have to the community of salmon and providing opportunities for future generations," end quote. The access agreement and improvements to the area were funded by Fish and Game's Access Yes program and a grant from the Idaho Fish and Wildlife Foundation. To learn more about this new fishing hole, check out Mike Demick's story on our website, link in the description. But the good news doesn't just stop there. In this next story, Fish and Game just received a $209,000 grant earmarked for hunting, fishing, and other recreation access. Thanks to a $209,000 federal grant recently awarded to the department, hunters and anglers can expect more public access to private land as early as this fall through Fish and Game's Access Yes program. The $209,000 grant will allow for the continued expansion of Fish and Game's Access Yes program, which improves access to private land or through private land by compensating willing landowners who provide access. As of April 2023, there are about 310,000 acres of private property enrolled in Access Yes, and Fish and Game officials hope to substantially increase that number of acres over the next 3 years using these new funds. Here's Fish and Game's Wildlife Program Coordinator Sal Palazzolo.
All of the grant funding made available through this program will go directly towards securing access agreements with private property owners, thereby increasing the acres of private land containing quality wildlife habitat that are open to public access in Idaho. We had already begun notifying landowners of this opportunity this summer in anticipation of this funding, with the goal of having those properties accessible to hunters and anglers by the fall hunting and fishing seasons.
Fish and Game will also be using a portion of the grant funding to continue a wildlife viewing project in the Teton Valley, which will provide habitat and viewing opportunities for sandhill cranes and waterfowl. Check out Fish and Game's Access Yes webpage if you're interested in this program. I'll leave a link in the description. And with that, it's time for the Rapid Fire Bulletin. Looking to upgrade your license plate this fall? Well, the 2024 Idaho Wildlife license plates are now available, and they benefit a pretty great cause. The Idaho Fish and Wildlife Foundation, a partner of the Idaho Department of Fish and Game, provides Idaho residents with 3 colorful license plate options: elk, cutthroat trout, and mountain bluebird. All 3 feature new, original artwork by Idaho artists. Proceeds from each license plate purchase goes to 3 distinct causes, all of which are designed to support Fish and Game's Wildlife Diversity Program. It doesn't matter if you're a backcountry archery hunter or a backyard bird watcher. By purchasing an Idaho Wildlife license plate, you're supporting Idaho's plant and animal life. Head on over to www.itd.idaho.gov if you're interested in renewing or purchasing one of these new Idaho Wildlife plates. On Thursday, August 8th, a black bear was trapped and relocated from within the city limits of Salmon. Bears within the city limits are becoming a fairly regular occurrence. Bears are also omnivores that will eat almost anything that provides them calories. So people who put out garbage before trash day or leave out birdseed and pet foods, etc., may inadvertently attract hungry bears, which usually doesn't end well for the bear. Remember, residents should report bear problems to their local Fish and Game office in a timely manner. Oftentimes, if Fish and Game knows of a problem early, staff can get information out to homeowners to encourage them to make some changes to make their neighborhood less attractive to bears and make non-lethal interventions by Fish and Game staff more effective. Idaho Fish and Game is seeking public volunteers from the Magic Valley and Upper Snake regions to serve on a Citizens Shooting Range Advisory Committee that recommends to Fish and Game which public shooting ranges should receive portions of about $500,000 annually in grant funds. Anyone interested in applying for a position on the Citizens Shooting Advisory Committee must fill out and submit an application by October 31st. Committee members will have their meetings online during early evenings, so travel is not required. More information is available on Fish and Game's Citizen Shooting Range Advisory Committee webpage. Okay, that's it for this week's stories. It's time for our question of the week. Here's a question I picked up from an Idaho hunter via a Facebook hunting group. The fella asks, if you're awarded a controlled hunt tag, can you also purchase an over-the-counter tag? Or if you have an over-the-counter tag and submit for a controlled hunt, what happens to your over-the-counter tag? Shout out to all the folks who commented and helped this guy out with his question. The answer is no. You have the choice of keeping one or the other, but not both. However, if you have an over-the-counter tag and successfully draw an extra controlled hunt tag, like a late-season cow tag or extra antlerless, for instance, you are allowed to keep both, since the controlled hunt was for an extra tag. Hope that helps. And that's all the news we have for this week. Thanks for putting an ear to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin. If there's something on your mind, or if you got a question related to Fish and Game matters, feel free to drop us a line at podcast@idfg.idaho.gov. Again, that's podcast@idfg.idaho.gov. Folks, hunting season is going to be here before we know it. So if you got a question that's burning in your brain, write us in and we'll do our best to answer it for you. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next week.